Welcome back, baseball fans, the 1973-76 Carryover League, and today we are at the All-Star break, and today we're having our All-Star break mid-season standings, a look at stats, look at the postseason tournament, look at the format of the league, and some awards, so forth, some bookkeeping and so forth. Let's just get it right into this. I'm going to go first from the top and explain how this league works. Created this spreadsheet over the years, and I usually edit it as I kind of go through in each succeeding year. Our league has 3 phases. Phase 1 is a regular season, which concludes at the All-Star break. Phase 2 is Race for the Pennant, which is a postseason tournament after the All-Star break. And Phase 3 is your playoffs. So each phase, the regular season, Phase 1, between the end of March through the Major League Baseball All-Star break, which is July 15th. The Major League Baseball All-Star game is in Atlanta this year. My All-Star game will be hosted by Kansas City, who hosted the 1973 All-Star game, the first year of the timeline, 73. Actually, I can note that there. The All-Star games in 73, 74 it's in Pittsburgh, 75 it's in Milwaukee, 76 is in Philadelphia, 77 is in New York. And beyond that, I'm not exactly sure where it is. The Dodgers have it in 80, I think. So the American League will host the All-Star game that I play this year. Okay. So in Phase 1 of the regular season, every team plays 6 series, 3 of those in their division, 2 outside their division in their league, and 1 interleague. The 3 division series are best of 7s, interleague, across your division in your league, it's a best of 5, and the best of 3 interleague. So you do the math. You would play in a best of 7, a minimum of 4 games, best of 5, minimum of 3, a minimum of 2. Maximums are over here, a max of 21, 10, and 3. And so the average number of games you would play for 6 series, it would be a minimum of 20. If everything was you were swept or you swept somebody, a minimum number of games is 20, a max is 34. Right in the middle, what you would expect on average is around 27. And so the number of games that are expected to be played at the All-Star break is this number, 432. I've been keeping tally of how many games I've played. Started broadcasting on YouTube in 2020 in the summer. And these are the numbers. So I'm plus 11 in that year. And every year after, I've been above the expected number of games played. Even though it's just a small percent half the time. You see 2.5%, 2.5%, and 2.5%. But still, it's slightly above, and that's what I'm trying to achieve. I want to play as many games. The more games I play, I believe the more successful the league is, because it forces competition. It forces the most competition. If everybody was sweeping each other, that wouldn't be a lot of fun. And if the expansion teams and the also-rans were lousy, that wouldn't be a lot of fun. If the giants of this era, let's say the Big Red Machine, if they were like 25-5, that wouldn't be a lot of fun, unless you were from Cincinnati, I guess. But just watching teams humiliate other teams, this is not a lot of fun. So that is why there's a lot of competition. We had a 5.8% increase and a 6.5% increase. This was interesting that in these 2 years, the 1969 and 1970 seasons were used, and the 1969-1970 reissue Strat cards were used. So if you're wondering about when I say reissue, the advanced editions didn't start until 1971 with Strat-O-Matic. Prior to that, it was just single-sided cards, just one column, 3 column, 1 to 3, 4, 5, 6. You didn't have the platoon situation prior to 1971. That's when they went to it, 71 and onward. But then they came back and did reissues of 70 and 69, and have since probably done a second reissue with the modern rules. I haven't really checked that, but in any event, this year we only had 441 games, which has been a drop from the previous. And I think and looking at, I can sort of chase this down now. What may have happened is that there was one round of games. Here we are. We had a round of division battles that were sweeps, 5 of them in one round. Milwaukee swept Kansas City 4 straight. The Expos swept Cleveland 4 straight. Colorado swept Arizona. Pittsburgh and the Cubs. Philadelphia and Atlanta. All sweeps. So when you get that many sweeps, you have to think that, well, maybe you're not going to get as many games played at the All-Star break. In the case of the winners, Philadelphia is in great shape. Pittsburgh is in great shape. Colorado doesn't really matter. All those teams are about the same record. Milwaukee's having a great year for them. Kansas City's been awful. The Expos and the Indians are close. The Expos are above them. So, yeah, those sweeps have meant a lot in the overall standings. Speaking of 4-game sweeps, since then, I don't think we have any more 4-0s. Okay, Arizona, Las Vegas is one. The Giants did sweep Houston 4 straight. Giants having a great year. Houston's awful. Any more 4-0 sweeps in here? Yeah, you get swept 4 games. I mean, you're in trouble because you don't have an opportunity to come back in our format unless you do the sweeping. Because every series you play is a best of something. So if you're swept 0-4 and you win the next series 3-2, the next series 3-2, the next series 2-1, you're still got a losing record. So it's very important to show up and participate and win some games, for Pete's sakes. All right. So that gets us to the All-Star break. We will have an All-Star selection show. That'll be another video to watch tomorrow. And then we'll have the All-Star game. And then after that, then we'll begin the race for the pennant. Phase 2, race for the pennant. This is a postseason tournament. What I simply did was I took postseason and playoffs. They're often interchangeable. I decided to use them independent of each other. Postseason means after the season, but before the playoffs. The postseason race for the pennant tournament is probably what it should be called. And it runs from the All-Star break through about the middle to late August. Around August 15th is when it usually ends. And the purpose is to methodically start eliminating teams until we have a playoff field. We typically get somewhere between 120 games here. Let me highlight that. Between 110, 120 games in the postseason tournament. So the postseason tournament is about a fourth, maybe a little bit more than that, of the games played from March, April, May, June, and July, because you're doing this all in like 1 month. And then the playoffs is about 80 games, you know. And so once you're all done, you expect about 660 or so games in a season. And I've got data supporting that. I can show you. Let's go back to the race for the pennant, because you've all been watching the regular season. And we'll go to the standings momentarily. Race for the pennant, what we do is, instead of best of 7 here, BO7, BO5, we are saying up to 7 games are played. Up to 5 games, up to 3. In other words, if you can get the result that you want, you stop playing. So you don't have to play in an up to 7. It doesn't need 4 victories and 3 or fewer defeats. It could be 5, 6, 7. You know, might have to win all 7 games. So that's how many games are up to. That many games are played in each round of this tournament. So what we do is we have the first and second place teams are playing to determine who is in first. And the third and fourth place teams are played to determine who is in fourth or last place. At that point, the fourth place teams are all eliminated. It's 8 fourth place teams are eliminated. And so we go from a 32 team playoff field to a 24 team playoff field. Then we'll begin a second phase of the tournament, up to 5 games. What we do is now we have first place teams. We're going to go across a division that we didn't play in the regular season. If you go up across here, remember there's 4 divisions, and you're playing outside your division twice. So there's a third division you haven't played yet. That's the division you play here, and this is all on a rotating basis year to year to year. Sort of the way the NFL rotates its schedule accordingly. I kind of follow the NFL a lot with how I structure this. I have my first place teams are playing each other for seeding purposes. They're not going to be eliminated. It's just to distinguish who's got a better record and who could be a number 1, a number 2, a number 3, or a number 4. You can fall out of first place, and a second place team can rise to first. I have all third place teams visiting second place teams. And the purpose of this round is to eliminate 4 more teams. Mostly third place teams would get eliminated, but occasionally you can get some second place teams eliminated. So 8 of those are eliminated. Now you're down to 16. And in the third and final round of the postseason tournament, we have 8 teams in each league. So we want number 8 to play number 5, number 7 to play number 6. And this is like a rubber match, a best of 3. The purpose is to eliminate 4 more teams. That'll get us to 12. That'll get us to 4 division winners and 2 wild cards. And this gets us right around to the mid-August to the playoffs. And then once the playoffs, phase 3 start, pretty much just like you have 4 division winners and 2 wild cards. The wild card round's a best of 5. Divisional round is a best of 7, though I use the NBA format, which is 2-2. Home team gets 2, 1-1-1. Why this? This means that the teams who got byes have game 5 in their park. If you played the standard baseball 2-3-2 format, game 5 would be in the road stadium. So I'm trying to protect my divisional teams with byes by using the NBA format where game 5 is where the team who has the bye is. Then we have a traditional league championship series and World Series. 2 games, 3 games, 2 games. Standard format there. And that's usually played around Labor Day. Games are usually broadcasted on YouTube through October. So I'm doing stuff ahead of time and posting them, a couple weeks ahead of time, maybe now a month ahead of time, depending. So that's the 3 phases of the carryover league, which is presently in 73 to 76, and then next year it'll be 74 to 77, then 75 to 78, etc. Okay. Now let's take a look at stats and standings and schedule. American League, let's start with the American League East. We'll just go through all the divisions. The Orioles have a half-game lead on the Red Sox. Both are in really good shape in the American League to probably make it to the playoffs because no one's running away with the American League. A number 6 seed and a number 1 seed might not be that much different. But they're playing winning baseball. They'll meet in the postseason tournament. Of course, Yankees, Blue Jays will as well. We'll give you the proper math as to what each team needs in the postseason tournament shortly. All right. The Tigers caught the Expos right before the All-Star break, have a 1-game lead. And Indians and Ohio players are just a half game apart. They'll play each other. This is a really good division. I can show you too. This blue number here, this is division interleague play And the interleagues this year are going directly across. So the East, all the same regions are playing across. So the American League East is 2 better than the National League East, which is -2. And National League, American League North is -4, but they're playing against the Reds Pirates division. Reds, Pirates, Cardinals, Cubs division. So that's a tough division. They're -4. And again, +1 here and +1 there. The net, for the first time I can ever remember, check it out, it's net 0. American League and National League finished in a tie in interleague play for the first time ever. If you're wondering about number of games played, American League has played 11 more games than the National League. That has a lot to do with general mediocrity. The National League has better teams at the top who are thumping people. Let's continue on. Probably the most surprising team in the American League is the Minnesota Twins. They're currently sitting at a number 2, 5 over 500. They'll play the White Sox, who have been okay, but are the probably more talented team. They just need to start winning more games. Brewers are at 500, and Kansas City is the surprisingly poor team in the American League. They're really talented, but they have just been awful this year. They don't have a lot to play for. And out west, the Oakland A's, they had the worst start of any team in the American League, mysteriously, and then they caught fire, as they are prone to do. Ultimately, they're just a couple of games over 500, but when you look out west, there's not a lot of competition. We know, of course, that within a division, everybody plays each other, so you're 500. So the only answer is, how good is your division versus the other divisions in your league? And again, that American League North, they're +11, whereas American League East is just +2, and then the Midwest is -3 and -10. So the strongest division is the division that has the Tigers, Expos, Indians, and Ohio players. Let's move over to the National League now. Starting in the East, Philadelphia is just dominating. Remember I said certain teams are running away with stuff. 19-8, 5 games ahead. Braves are a good club, but in the National League, good is not good enough. Same with the Mets. There's too much ground to catch up. I don't think they can get it done. Reds and Pirates, they're only a game and a half ahead of the Pirates, but when they played head-to-head, they beat them 4-1. The proud Cardinals got back to 500, which is progress for a team that had the worst record in the National League a year ago. And last year's darlings, the Cubs, found that playing in this division can be brutal, as somebody has to lose the games, is the conundrum. Somebody's got to lose if the Reds and Pirates are winning all the time. Last year, the Cardinals were losing. This year, the Cubs are losing. Now, this division, the Mountain Time Zone, is awful this year, with no team with a winning record. And that is not something I'm particularly happy about, because normally these teams are sent some quality players, maybe not Hall of Famers, but occasional All-Stars, extra player cards. They're excellent in short sample sizes. But, they're -15 across the rest of the league. And when you look at how that -15 shapes up, look at the other divisions, +5, +5, and +5. So it's pretty much equilaterally getting knocked around by all the competitive MLB teams. The good news is only one team goes from this division. Some years, you get a wild card to come out of here, which means that a traditional MLB team is on the outs. I'll go to the West, and I'll consider looking at what Atlanta and the Mets and the teams on the outside would have to do. Dodgers and the Giants are both playing great baseball out West, so they and the Reds-Pirates rivalries are the best rivalries in the sport right now. Padres trying to hang in there, and the Astros have had a terrible year. The wild card situation in the National League is not looking good at all, because the Giants, who could be in first, they're a 16-10 team, and then if you're going to need them to fade, and while they're fading, you've got to be perhaps the Cardinals get hot, or the Mets get hot, or the Braves get hot. it's just a lot of ground to cover. They're already 3 games back, or is it 6 games back? They're already 3 games back of the Giants. So the Giants would have to completely tumble, and the Cardinals, Braves, or Mets, one of those 3 teams, would have to get incredibly hot for things to change a lot in the National League. Now we're going to take a look at the awards and some stats. First, let's start with the American League. American League, I had a hard time finding an MVP to emerge from the American League. First thing that sticks out is awarding the MVP to the team that's dominating, and none of the teams are dominating. So with that being said, I decided what team has really come out of nowhere and done the most. Now I've got to give it to the Twins. So in looking at the stats, no particular player really had the dominating, wrecking stats. I gave the MVP to Rod Carew of the Twins, hitting .329, but he leads the American League in stolen bases with 17. He is an MVP winner. He wins it in 77. And you look at some of these averages. Look at the Yankees. They have 3 players hitting above .350, and then you have Mercer having 26 RBI and Chris Chambliss hitting .321, and they have a losing record. See, this is what kind of happens in your left. You're trying to figure out, well, who do I give the MVP to, you know? And then we have a situation here with it's Rico Petrocelli. Where is he? Here he is. He doesn't even play all the time. He gets some days off. He is hitting .312, 8 homers and 21 RBIs, and the Red Sox are doing some good stuff. But Petrocelli often bats 8th or 9th in that lineup, so I just had a hard time giving him an MVP award, particularly when I consider all the players who are better than him on that team. So Carew edges out a weak field of MVP candidates. It's just a bunch of guys, no particular slugger, run producer. Some nice batting averages here, but not a lot of production otherwise on a bad Yankee team. So that is your MVP. The other awards, Rookie of the Year, Cy Young, and Fireman, are all pitchers. Rookie of the Year in the American League, we gave it to a pitcher. We gave it to Mark Fidrich. 5-3 with a 2.76 ERA. What's interesting, he supplanted Mickey Lolich as the ace in Detroit, and did it successfully, which is somewhat shocking, with a 2.76 ERA. Where is Lolich in here anyway? I mean, there he is. So Lolich has pitched 20 fewer innings. He's 2-3 with a 3.37 ERA. So Rookie of the Year is Mark Fidrich. The Cy Young in the American League, I gave it to Burt Blyleven. He has 82 innings and a 7-2 record and a 3.28 ERA. The only other pitcher with 7 wins is Wilbur Wood, and he's down here a little bit. 81 innings, but he's pitching on 2 days rest, and he still can't catch Blyleven. He's an inning shy. He's 7-4 with a 4.11 ERA. So all the stats are better for Blyleven, and Blyleven is on a team that's presently in first place. So that was the situation there. And the Fireman Award, there's a lot of really good closers in the American League. So that might be the first advantage they have over the National League. Gossage is 6 saves, but has a couple losses and is not as dominant as he was a year ago. He's at a 2.95 ERA, still very good. We got Sparky Lyle, 1-3, 6 saves, 4.91 ERA. But we have Skip Lockwood, 8 saves for a Seattle team. Don McMahon, this was a hard person to deny the Fireman Award. 7 saves, an 0.67 ERA. But I gave the award to Dale Murray for the Expos because they are in the contention, and he's got a 0.73 ERA and 7 saves. Of all the closers in the league, Raleigh Fingers is doing well also for Oakland. buck 54 and 7 saves. John Hiller, buck 50 but just 5 saves. There's a lot of good closers in the American League. Doug Bird on a lousy Kansas City team, 6 saves and a buck 59 ERA. So those are the 4 awards in the American League. Now let's go to the National League. Last year, the All-Star game was in Atlanta, Fulton County. And Hank Aaron was not invited because he had a terrible season a year ago for whatever reason. You just have bad luck. But guess what, folks? Right now, Hank Aaron is tearing it up in the National League, hitting .337, lead the National League with 13 homers and 33 RBIs. Johnny Bench is close. Here, Kingman's also close. Kingman, .297, 12 and 24. And Bench is in here somewhere as well with, I think, a dozen home runs. I thought there was one more guy with 12. Maybe Bench doesn't have 12. But Aaron gets the MVP of the National League. Rookie of the Year for the National League. He wasn't technically a rookie. To qualify for rookie, it means the first time I put your card in the league. So Griffey's had been in Major League Baseball, but the Reds had been sandbagging him in the minor leagues. Well, they finally promoted him with a 76 card, and he's hitting .377 with it, and he's batting third on the Big Red Machine, the best team in the league. I got to give him the Rookie of the Year. The MVP, Aaron, and the pitching awards for the National League. Your Cy Young winner, there were 2 undefeated 7-game winners. Don Gullett was 7-0 with a .209 ERA, and Ron Bryant 7-0 with a .262 ERA. I gave it to the Cincinnati pitcher for, well, they're the Reds. 7-0, .209 ERA, folks. So, yeah, I mean, you talk about the Big Red Machine dominating with offense. If they get pitching like that, and Jack Billingham also, 6-0, .283, and Pat Zachary, 3-1, .295, they're not supposed to have starting pitching this good. If they get that plus the offense, we know who's winning it all this year. The Dodgers had great years out of Messersmith and Sutton, but not undefeated like Gullett and Ron Bryant were. And the Firemen in the National League, this was a tough one because there's a lot of mediocrity in the National League as far as closers go. We had Dave Justy for the Pirates is nice, but his ERA is 3, which is a little on the high side for a closer. 2-0, 7 saves. We have 5 saves for Tug McGraw with a .202 ERA. Tom Johnson has 6 saves for Arizona, but a .485 ERA. And Clay Carroll is 1-3, 6 saves, and this is not a misprint. That's not 1, that's 10. His ERA is .1003, and that's the Reds' closer. So that's something to throw alarm bells at. But we decided to give the Fireman of the Year to this biggest story in the National League is Mike Marshall gobbling up all the innings, but not the most. So when I consider the fact he wasn't getting the most, and look at that, it's on the same row here. Gossage is 21 1/3 of the American League. Marshall's got 20 2/3. Now, the wins and saves are there, but it's the ERA that made me deny Marshall the Fireman of the Year, because the .435 ERA is nowhere close to Al Hrabowski, who I gave the Fireman Award to. He only has 3 saves, but he's got 4 wins. So a lot of times, Al Hrabowski's brought into games that the Cardinals aren't even winning. Tie games, they're down by a run, and he goes in to finish it. So you could turn 4 of those wins into 4 to make it 7 or 8 saves if you want to do it that way. But sparkling 106 ERA in 17 innings is a lot for a closer at the All-Star break, at least. When you look at the number of innings pitched for the entire league, you want every pitcher to have 10 innings pitched by the All-Star break. Ohio has a couple guys who have not done that. And in the National League, the Cubs, same thing. In the case of Bruce Sutter, well, His team just doesn't provide enough save situations, and when they have, he's 1-2 with a 6.75 ERA. Don Hood's been equally awful. Normally, guys with low innings pitch have bad ERAs. 10.80. Jess Jefferson's been decent with an ERA of 4. Same thing with the hitters. We want the hitters to have at least 30 at-bats at the All-Star break. So in the case of Phil Garner, Glenn Becker, they're usually in a platoon. Becker platoons with George Orta, but you like to leave Orta in there. He's much better of a hitter. And Phil Garner is sitting behind Dick Green, who actually has a good batting average and good defense. That explains why those guys aren't getting at-bats. National League, Frank Tavares, his Pittsburgh card, he's just been hitting terribly, so he hasn't played. And Randy Hundley on the Cubs, he isn't hitting anything either, so they let Tim Hosley catch. Here's a neat little story. Bob Barton, who is Cincinnati's backup catcher, gets to be designated hitter versus left-handed pitching, sometimes putting Ken Griffey on the bench, if you can believe that. Well, guess what? He's hitting 353. Griffey's hitting 377, but that's not bad just to get this guy some playing time. And I expect him to start losing playing time in the postseason tournament and playoffs, as those rules of participation are all good. Everybody's got 30 at-bats, and most all pitchers have 10 innings pitched. So once we get to that, then you could use a roster any way you wish. So we have the individual stats, and I guess I should go top down. I did the American League top down. I should do a National League top down. We talked about Bobby Mercer and those Yankee hitters. National League, Big McBride's hitting 410 and 40 hits. Dave Parker, 407. And there's some nice batting averages here. Lou Brock's got 22 stolen bases, which is nice. There's some really nice production here in the National League. And we'll get to looking at more of these stats when we go to the All-Star Selection Show. So we'll get to looking at more stats when we do that separate broadcast. What we can look at are team stats, and then we'll start looking at the schedule. Team stats by batting average. So Atlanta's hitting 300. They have 36 home runs, 136 RBI, and it trends all the way down to, well, there you go. Kansas City Royals hitting 231. That explains a lot, with just 14 homers and 67 RBIs. I'm curious where the Cardinals would be at stolen bases. Here we are. So the Cardinals, with Lou Brock and Tommy Harper, have 40 stolen bases to pace all of Major League Baseball. Do the Braves 36 homers lead everybody? They probably do. Oh, the Red Sox have 36. That's nice. Cincinnati's got 164 RBI. That's nice. Of course, you're going to see some teams with like 1 or 2 stolen bases because they don't even have an A or a B stealer on their team. In those cases, the dreadfully slow teams. And then here's a sort by earned run average. And there we go. Oakland is the only team with a sub-3 ERA. And what really righted their ship is that Catfish Hunter, after losing on opening day, has been lights out since then. Kenny Olson's been consistent. Torres has been decent. The only starter struggling is Dave Hamilton. But at the back end, Raleigh Fingers has been nailing. He's perfect in save opportunities. So that's probably why the league in ERA. Is Baltimore in here somewhere? Oh, they're down the list a little bit. Baltimore's usually up. Baltimore's got a 3.73 ERA and a 2.37 average. So makes me think they might be a paper tiger a little bit, and they're not really that good, even though they're winning the East. The Angels are wasting some good pitching with a weak offense. There are the Dodgers and Giants, good pitching teams. And they're the Reds. Talked about their starters earlier. The starting pitching's been great for Cincinnati. Bullpen's been weak, which is sort of the opposite of how it was for the Reds. Normally they had a great bullpen. Phillies are up there, the surprising Expos and Indians. Most of the time, the good pitching teams pretty much are going to the playoffs. I can't necessarily always say that for the good hitting teams. Remember, I said the Yankees. Look at that. They're hitting 289 with all those 350-plus hitters up there. Here's the Marlins hitting 270, and they got one of the worst records in the league. All right, so without further ado, let's go into the postseason schedule. And we'll show you how the tiebreakers and all that work. So after the All-Star game, the first thing we do is we play the 7-game division titles, but in parentheses, we're just looking for who has the lead. It doesn't clinch the title. It just puts you in first or second place. And so here we have the team that lags, how many games back they are, and also when the teams met the first time, who has the net tiebreaker. And also the other thing is the home field advantage is flipped from when they met previously. So regarding that, Boston now has to go to Baltimore for a best of or up to 7. They do have a +1 tiebreaker, which means that if you're just a half a game back, it becomes a simple best of 7. And the way you read this is that in a best of 7, Boston would be a half game ahead, but they'd have a tiebreaker of +2 because they already have a +1. So it becomes a simple best of 7. The next division, the Expos and the Tigers. Now the Expos are a full game back, and the Tigers are +3. So that means if the Expos win the series 4-3, they're still in a tie. Tigers still have a tiebreaker. So that means they play a game 8. So the Expos have to win 5 of 8 games. Minnesota and the White Sox. White Sox are 2 games back. Minnesota also has a tiebreaker. So 4-3 won't work at all. White Sox need to win 5-2. They do that, they're a full game ahead, and they'd be in first place. Oakland and California. This one really hurts the Oakland A haters out there. So the Angels are 2.5 back. If they were to win 5 of 7 games, they'd be a half game in front. But that still does not give them a tiebreaker because Oakland is +4. And they'd still be +1. So they'd have to play an 8th game. So California needs to win 6 out of 8 to get to first place. Philadelphia is probably the safest team in here. They swept the Braves 4 straight, and the Braves are 5 back. Simple math in this one is a 6-1. A 6-1, winning 6 out of 7. The Braves have to beat the Phillies 6 out of 7 times. That would put them tied, but the Braves would have a +1. You'd eat up that +4, and you'd have 1 game left over for the Braves. Reds, Pirates. This is a tough one for the Pirates. They have to win 5 out of 7. They're a game and a half back, and the Reds beat them 4-1. So basically, they'd have to return the favor and then split 2 more games in the up to 7. Go win 4 out of the first 5, then split the 6th and 7th games. That would get you to a 5-2. All right, Colorado and Portland. Poor Portland's +4 head-to-head, but they can't use it. And the reason is they're already tied. The teams are tied, so it's a simple best of 7. The only reason you use a tiebreaker is if the teams are tied or within a half a game. But if it's a full game, then you don't use a tiebreaker. Giants, Dodgers. Giants a game and a half back. Dodgers already have a +3, which means the Giants have to win 5 of 7. Still doable. This is just the same thing the Pirates are doing. I mean, it's the same scenario that you have here. The Giants would have to win 4 out of 5 because the Dodgers beat the Giants 4 out of 5. So the Giants would have to do the same thing and then split the last 2 games to get to the 5-2. And that closes the gap. All right. Then after that, in the first round, we start doing the eliminations. So the Yankees and Toronto. Toronto's a half game behind the Yankees, but the Yankees have a +3 tiebreaker. So winning 4-3, Yankees still have a tiebreaker with just a half game lead. So you got to play an 8th game. And Toronto can win that, and they'd be a game and a half ahead. Ohio, Cleveland, this is sort of the same scenario as this one here. So it becomes a best of 7. Sometimes you can just see the same scenarios, so you can just copy the same needs. All right, the Kansas City Royals are in trouble. We knew this. Milwaukee beat them 4 straight. That's not the worst part. Kansas City is 4 games behind the Brewers. So 5 out of 7 is not going to work. 6 out of 7 does. That puts them a game ahead, and also you wouldn't need a tiebreaker, though you'd have it. Kansas City would be a +1 in the tiebreaker as well. Seattle, Texas. Texas +3. They don't get to use it because they're already tied. It's a simple best of 7. Florida, well, they're 4.5 behind the Mets. And the Mets also are +3 head-to-head. Again, 5-2, just like up here. 5-2 is not going to work. You're going to need to win 6 out of 7. That puts them a game and a half ahead. That puts them a half game ahead, but they have the tiebreaker at that point. It's taken away from the Mets. Cardinals, Cubs. Cubs are 4 back. You get to 4 back. You get beyond 3 back is the simple way of looking at this. If you're at least within 3 games, you could win 5 of 7 and be tied. Beyond 3 games back, you're in trouble. And that's the case of the Cubs. They have to beat the Cardinals 6 out of 7 times. Folks, we have often seen huge deficits, and the need can say need to win 8 in a row or need to win 9 in a row. I'll put it out there and just say, well, it's obvious it's not going to happen, but if it does, it does. If some team beats another team 9 in a row because that's their only way the schedule would allow it, then I'll let them keep playing. I mean, if you lose 9 in a row, you should be eliminated anyway in a scenario like that. We had that a few years ago. All right, Arizona, Las Vegas, a game back. Vegas loses a tiebreaker, so they need to win 5-3. That's sort of the same as this one, similar anyway. And this Houston-San Diego one is very similar to the Giants-Dodgers one. Houston's 2.5 games back. Winning 5-2 is what they need to do. Puts them a half game ahead and takes the tiebreak away from the Padres. So what I normally see when I do this stuff is that the first and second place teams are generally closer together than the third or fourth place teams are. Because normally the fourth place teams, on enough occasions, it's a lot easier to lose than win. So normally you see a lot of teams losing a lot versus winning a lot. And I see the case of Kansas City having a bad year, Florida, and the Cubs, Houston to a certain extent. So these are more, I guess, lopsided results that are needed. Here is very competitive. You have a couple best of 7s. The Expos 5-3. Philadelphia's in great shape. Philadelphia's in the best shape. And even Oakland's in great shape, which is staggering to consider. But that's only because the other teams in the American League West are awful. So we knew Oakland would be in great shape. And that is a look at the postseason tournament schedule. So with that, we'll take a pause right here. And tomorrow we'll do the All-Star Selection Show, which will be taking a deeper dive into the stats as well. And the day after that will be the All-Star Game. So thanks for checking this out. Hope you appreciate this analysis, and we'll see you next time.